Bridgerton fans are learning something new daily with the Bridgerton siblings as they realize that sometimes feelings of love can be expressed through silence, and the relationship dynamic and details between Francesca and John Stirling will all be revealed to and broken down to some hidden details you probably missed. Francesca is different, which is obvious from the beginning of Bridgerton 3 Part 1. Unlike Daphne and Eloise, who walked out of the rooms on their debuting days to be inspected by their siblings, Francesca made music while her family wondered where she was. And while her mother called her as she played, she said her mother didn't have to shout. She was already dressed up and ready when her family thought she was still busy. And that's to show she doesn't like getting attention, which is why the way John Stirling got introduced is one of the mind-blowing ways Bridgerton has ever introduced a romantic partner. And it gets even better as you understand the real reason why they click so well together. While speaking with her mother before going up to the Queen, Francesca wasn't exactly excited that she could be getting married. Instead, she was looking forward to the benefits of marriage, like having her own house. And she wanted the house so she could finally have some peace for herself. And you know who has all of these things Francesca desires the most? The John Stirling. This explains why she was never seen in seasons 1 and 2. If not for the fact that she had to debut this season, Francesca would have remained anonymous, as most viewers didn't remember her from the past seasons. Although she was barely around because she was with a close relative and learning the pianoforte, Francesca always sat back quietly when her siblings were up and about. She never even had a scene where she interacted with a few people alone, as she was always captured with the rest of the family, which made sense because she was still very young. Now that Francesca has entered society, she willingly went into it to marry the first logical and kind man she meets who would make an impression on her. So she wasn't even asking for too much and was only moving with the tide until John Stirling, the Earl of Kilmartin, showed up. And it gets even better as you learn what makes them stand out as a couple. The Bridgerton family is like the Regency era home where every child wishes they were born into. But Francesca, as the middle child, wishes for a quieter family. And that's why she also looks out for that in a romantic partner. The eldest Bridgerton son and daughter are like parents to the younger ones as they step in during any major crisis in the show. Then there's the second daughter, Eloise, who's very loud and opinionated. However, the younger siblings want to run around and get some attention, and Francesca has to live in the middle of all these strong personalities. So for someone so quiet amid all those energetic people, it's interesting how Francesca keeps to herself and doesn't try to draw attention. However, she's not just like this when with her family. Her differences are also noticeable among her friends. While everyone talked about the admirable attributes they expect their husbands to have, Francesca said she wanted someone kind because she couldn't communicate the exact man she wanted in a way they would understand. That doesn't mean Francesca wouldn't have courted any nice man who took an interest in her, but her interactions with most of the men, which might have looked pleasant, weren't very comfortable for her. At the first ball, some gentleman approached her and asked her what her hobby was, to which she replied that she played pianoforte. But then something crazy happened when they pushed further by wanting her to say more about herself, like what gets her angry and who she is. And Francesca had to find a way to escape that discussion. Unlike John Stirling, who connected with her right away, these men's mistake was that they didn't just get her because asking her that question is what sets her off. In the Regency era and even the modern world, the questions asked weren't too much, but for her kind of person, it was scary to start processing. And the shocking thing later at that ball was that she freely spoke to Penelope about herself, as she only wanted to be understood and talk about other things except herself. So they ended up bonding over being the only different siblings in their families. Despite being different, her mother still gets her more than anyone. While at the ball, she noticed how she acted like she didn't want to be there, but was still polite enough to remain cordial throughout the event. The next day, her mother told her to think of balls as a duet because she knew that aside from silence, her other language was music. Funnily enough, John Stirling speaks both, and their relationship dynamic is a rare occurrence on TV, which makes it even more appealing as you discover more details in this video. Also, getting the Queen's attention as a debutante isn't what Francesca aimed for, as she wanted more than anything to get married and be quickly done with it. When Lady Danbury visited them after the ball, she immediately figured that Francesca could be interested in someone who was also into music and told her of some gentlemen she might like. Also, Francesca welcomed the idea and was happy to see where it leads. On meeting Lord Pittry, who is good at playing cello, Francesca discovered that although they might both be into music, they have different ways of enjoying it, leaving her with yet another unfulfilled encounter. After a few unsuccessful meetings with suitors, the Queen finally did her a favor by introducing her to Lord Samadani, and their insightful conversation shed more light on who Francesca is as a person and what she desires in a man. As they started talking, Lord Samadani made an engaging effort to kickstart their conversation by mentioning that they have large families in common, as they have 7 siblings each. Francesca's face sparked up immediately because she thought she already found someone who understood the hell she was in, especially when he agreed that he also didn't get peace with his siblings. But disappointedly, while she always felt alone amid her siblings, Lord Samadani felt the complete opposite. As if that's not already worse for Francesca, he added that he also wants to have 8 children, so his house would always bustle with noises and chatter, the exact things Francesca dreaded most in the world. That conversation alone dropped Lord Samadani from a highly ranked suitor for as she couldn't believe it could get any worse. But luckily for her, that night wasn't a total disaster. While trying to get some air, a man walked up to her, and while she was still trying to act cordial and like a well-mannered young lady, the man immediately knew she was there to get some peace. And to make things more fun, he wanted the same and suggested they enjoy the silence together. For someone who has met many people in such a short time since her debut in society, she finally felt seen. It was like a gush of happiness for Francesca not to have to initiate another conversation or explain what makes her happy or sad at that moment. And that night, they became endeared to each other, judging from their affectionate glances, even without making a formal introduction. Interestingly, John Stirling might be quiet, but not when he needed to know more about Francesca, because as an intentional man, he had already found out her name and her home the night before and made a mental note to call on her the next day. While the family and Francesca were expecting Lord Samadani, John Stirling showed up, and Violet was surprised because, as watchful as she was at the ball, she didn't know when and how Francesca met a man who was so quick to call on her. And the most beautiful thing ever happened here. As Francesca looked at him, John Stirling stylishly turned, and Francesca immediately understood as she did the same. They repeated the gesture from their first meeting without speaking, which was enjoying the silence. It was so weird that the typically loud Bridgerton siblings in the room sat quietly and started observing them. Before Lord Samadani interrupted the silence, the moment with John Stirling was one of the most enjoyable interactions that Francesca had ever had, until he did even more breathtaking things to win her all over. Although they had yet to talk, their relationship progressed faster than any member of the Ton could imagine, as Francesca was already asking her mother about his family the next time she ran into him. However, due to their past interactions, their first time making small talk felt awkward until John Stirling attempted to find something else to talk about, which was the music playing in the background. Francesca opened up about her issues with the music pacing, and John Stirling replied that her response was helpful. At the time, it didn't make sense what he meant, as he left immediately with Francesca disappointed. The next time they met, he apologized for leaving the way he did and explained that it was because he went to rearrange the music at the pace with which she loved it so she could enjoy it better. And you know what's even crazier? Francesca left the ball after receiving the music sheet to play and enjoy. So they are very much alike. Even though they speak a few words, John Stirling hears her and goes into action to make her feel heard and seen. As a quiet person among the Bridgertons, no one would listen to her even if she tried talking, because the other siblings' voices would drown out hers. But John Stirling gave her listening ears. As you've seen, John Stirling isn't in a rush to get information from Francesca or even change how she listens to music. So Francesca and John Stirling are proving to people that love isn't always expressive like it was in seasons 1 and 2. It's not always about pouring out the hearts in words, as most times all love could be is peace.